as of right now, there are certain things in my personal life that have much more needed focus. So much that they're preventing me from continuing the hobby that I love and do. So it leaves me no choice, and with much heavy heart to say that I have to take a little bit of break from doing any web video work at this time. Now, it doesn't mean vaulting is over. It's not done. I just need to take care of a couple of things in my life that need a lot of attention. So much that doing a show like this would probably get in the way, and I don't want to get overstressed and stuff to the point where I just want to straight up quit the show. Because I like doing what I do. Honestly. But there comes a time when one must take a break, put down the paintbrush, stow the art away, and when the time comes, return to it. But for now, there's dragons to fight, new worlds to discover, and a lot of battles that need to be fought. I want to continue my show. I don't know. So much has happened. Just stick with the old format? Or something new? And furthermore, what would I even first talk about if I were to... I've been saving this one for a very special occasion. But hey, why wait then? Get it over with. May 25th, 1977 is an important milestone to cinema fans. It was the day when Star Wars got released and changed the way movies are made and seen today. Though, according to some folks, May 4th is considered Star Wars Day thanks to one simple quotable line.
May the Force be with you.
But May 25th is the more important timestamp, and enthusiasts should not forget about it. But what if on the exact day so much more happened than the release of a movie? Very much to the point, it was enough material to make a feature film out of it. Well, that is the basis of Patrick Reed Johnson's quasi-self-biopic coming-of-age flick 5/25/77. Now, for this particular critique, I'm going to leave historical accuracy out of this one, given that it's Patrick's reflection of things that happened in his time, and he's retelling them for a more theatrical presentation. But from what I can say, this is definitely true, given this director was the first to see Star Wars before its final release, and even before all the special effects were nicely polished and finished. But is that detail among so many other personal stories just enough to sustain all 2 hours and 12 minutes? Well, I believe so. The plot centers on young Pat, who I'm only going to refer to in the movie's counterpart as Pat, as it would be pretty weird to not distinguish director from the character by saying the director's name over and over and over. Anyway, Pat is a high schooler who enjoys making home movies, but most of them are sequels to well-known flicks like Jaws or Planet of the Apes. They are crude, but interesting when one considers the great lengths Pat would go to recreate key special effects from those movies, even if they do annoy his family. I mean, who had the gall to paint their sister's horse to look like a zebra? It almost reminds me of this one time when I was about 9 or 10, and I had the gall to strap one of my sister's Barbie dolls to a model rocket, just to see if it could fly like the Rocketeer. My stepdad thought it was a good idea at the time. Anyway, Pat's mother gives him the opportunity of a lifetime by calling an editor from American cinematographer named Herb Lightman to try and meet up with one of Pat's visual effects heroes, Douglas Trumbull. The meeting doesn't quite turn out as planned, but Pat doesn't return empty-handed. Herb brings him to a visual effects studio called ILM, who's working on a very interesting sci-fi movie that Pat believes will be a pop culture game changer, even if previewed in its rough cut. Nobody believes or understands his excitement, but on that fateful day of its proposed release date, Pat does all he can to convince everyone this is an event they can't miss. But the irony is that one day turns out to be more of an event than the movie itself. There's fights with best friends, heartbreaks, showdowns with bullies, all leading up to the ensuing moment when Pat tries to see the final cut. There is so much to unpack here. But the best way I can talk about this movie is by referring to another slightly similar one, which was released at the same time. Now, I heard about Patrick's movie a little back in 2016, but confused as to why it didn't get a big release. Being an independent movie, some stuff does take time, like pickups, additional special effects, post-production, but most important, finding a distributor. I was still curious, but I never forgot about it. Jump to 2022, and Steven Spielberg releases The Fabelmans, which also had similar themes and ideas involving an aspiring filmmaker that makes home movies amidst all sorts of family drama that takes place. I was certainly hyped for Fabelmans, but guess what? It never came to my theater. One that was right down the street, just 2 minutes from where I lived. And by the time it went into wide release around Thanksgiving, I kept checking show times on every theater that was near to me, just within 30 to 35 minutes of my reach, and they never, I swear on my life, this is 100% true, never got The Fabelmans. And sure, I could just drive all the way down to Boston, but I didn't want to eat up all that fuel just to see one movie and risk if it was good or bad. I like the idea of conveniency, and said car at the time was rusting pretty badly. So, yeah. No Fabelmans. But just right on the day when the year was about to end, I discovered 5/25/77 was streaming. Now, I always have this tradition where I try to catch up with movies of the year, regardless of being good or bad, and depending on interest, I'll see it just a few mere hours until the ball drops, welcoming the new year. With 4 hours to kill, I gave a chance, and wow. I did not regret seeing every single second of it. There was so much effort and passion plugging in and connecting to it that I never forgot the experience of just waiting for the New Year's Eve ball to drop and just watching someone tell their experience and love for movies. John Francis Daley plays Pat, and there's something charming yet interesting about him. I like his determination to be a filmmaker, even if he goes to great lengths by using household objects, converting them into props and stuff. It reminds me of those times when I was working on my web series and I'd have this big event episode, and try to use models or animation to make the scene more dramatic. You can definitely feel his drive to make movies and why they're an important backbone to him. His goals are simple, identifiable, and you want to see him go far in the end. I even like how his best friends are supportive but have their limits. Sure, they may not be understanding of the plot choices to make Jaws 2 or sci-fi movie about a visitor alien, but they're in it just for the fun of doing something. Internet and cell phones were not a thing back in the 1970s, so you either spent time in a group, did nothing, or took part in someone's hobby. The standouts for me are Bill and Robin. They're down to earth, but act like pure voices of reason to Pat. I especially enjoy Bill for his sarcastic moments, even if we don't want to side with him. Yet, there are times when he can be right.
I'm also a practical guy, Pat. My name's on the sign at Buds and Sons. Your name is apparently up in lights somewhere out there.
Well, if you know you're so terrible, why do you keep doing it?
Because it used to be fun. Why do you keep doing it? Because you certainly aren't having any fun.
We're a movie studio, Bill. If we're gonna make it, we need to work on as many movies as we can.
Or maybe we could just finish one.
Stephen Coulter portrays him and applies a lot of comedic chemistry with how he contrasts the dreamlike nature of Pat's mindset. There's also a love story woven in as Pat falls for a girl named Linda, played by Emmy Chen. I love how we see the threads of their romance as some kind of puppy love. There are reasons to see why they can bond, but setbacks in the form of different interests and a town bully who is hinted to also be after her. Your heart keeps telling you maybe things will work out. They really seem to like each other. But as the movie goes on, we start to question just how long this relationship will last. Even if we know a breakup will happen, we don't want to see it. And once it does take place, you can feel your heart literally split in two. In an additional note, I should also mention I love the love theme that Alan Parsons provided, I Can't Get There From Here. It's a very sweet song, and I always tear up whenever I hear it, but I never forget how much of a center and core it is to this particular movie, especially given the tone and lyrics. It's a nice song, but the lyrics are both beautiful and melancholy at the same time. And I also got to mention Alan Parsons' participation in the movie too, as some of his songs do appear appropriately at key moments in the movie, even ones from his 1977 album I, Robot, which could have been a mega hit if it wasn't for the release of John Williams' score, which debuted almost around the same time. Oh well. The rest of the cast is pretty solid too. I appreciate that director Patrick Reed Johnson chose to use Midwestern performers to give a level of authenticity, given most of this is set in Illinois, the director's home state. It should be noted that this movie originally had some Star Wars alumni in here. From what I recall, Carrie Fisher was going to play Pat's mother, but certain circumstances came up. Instead, we got Colleen Camp, and I think she was a good replacement. That's right, Yvette from Clue the Movie. One look at her, and you can see Mother written on her forehead. She is stern, but means well, annoyed over her son's ambitions that destroys parts of the house, but she tries to help out realize his dreams. There's just something realistic about this portrayal overall. The way Colleen channels a personality that's not too mean, but you understand why she is stern. She could have so been easily made an antagonist, but thankfully they don't go in that direction. She knows filmmaking is her son's passion from day one, and tries to reason with it. Even if some of those special effects do things like ruining her oven or destroying the pool. But she carries a good heart at best, and means well. Another standout is Austin Pendleton's depiction of Herb Lightman from American Cinematographer. You heard me right, Max from the Muppet Movie. Here is a great character actor that turns in a memorable performance. I like how behind the soft voice, there is weight to his lines.
And you know how many times I've had the pleasure of seeing that look in a young person's eye when their dream comes true? Precisely never. Why? Because I've never done this for anyone before. Why? Because I never wanted to see the look in a young person's eyes when they realize that their dream is probably not going to come true. Why? Because Hollywood is the least conducive place on the planet Earth for anyone's dream to ever come true.
You can feel this history he has in researching behind the scenes, given the way he gives Pat tours to special effects departments that are working on movies like Close Encounters and the one with ILM. The line delivery doesn't come off as forced. There's a genuine feel to his words. It comes off less like a mentor teaching a student, but more from the viewpoint of someone who has seen much change in the industry.
Go see this movie again when it comes out. See it opening day, first show. If it doesn't make you jump in your car and drive like hell to get back out here, then maybe I'm wrong about you. But I don't think I am.
Originally, Christopher Lloyd was set to play her, but certain schedule complications came up. It's a shame given he worked with Patrick before on When Good Ghouls Go Bad, but I feel Austin's performance makes up for it. He's like the Wizard of Oz, but ends up giving Pat meaning to his small-time life. And of course, those scenes showing the special effects crew at work in the 1970s is a major highlight. Some of the props seen here range from physical builds to digital recreations, but the ones I was surprised to find out later were actual props and models used in their appropriate films. I won't go as far to point out which ones drew in the mystery, but these moments here are a pure scene stealer as we're given a backseat look into how visual effects performed way before digital technology dominated it. I find it interesting how during the scenes in Pat's hometown, we are treated to a variety of crude and low-budget effects, yet they add a distinctive charm to them. We get treated to some miniatures and matte effects that appear crafted for a home movie. But I feel like that's the point. It gives those scenes and moments their own identity. So when we get to the scenes in Hollywood, things feel polished and grand in scale. Even the aspect ratio changes from 1.85.1 to 2.35.1, so it has that larger-than-life feel. When watching this movie, the one thing that stood out to me the most was the editing. For about the first 50 minutes, it felt very fast-paced and choppy. And then I started to realize there might have been a purpose to that as well. I think the best way to describe it is this line Herb has.
Life doesn't move at 24 frames per second. It moves a lot faster. And on this picture, you only get one roll of film.
In a way, life is kind of like that. Things play at a rate that's too fast or too slow, and I can't recall a movie that tried to emulate that. The first bulk of 52577 sort of goes fast, given you are provided so much information in detail on this one's person life, so you can understand who they are. And the homemade quality all around gives this rustic tone and feel to it. So when the Hollywood scenes take place midway, the rest of the movie slows down from its frantic editing. The shots feel longer, and you get a sense of the moment. These pieces are so important to the point the editing allows those moments to breathe more. Even the crude effects scenes add a surreal nature too. There's a sequence where Pat and Linda break up, leading to a dream sequence where all the miniatures and models of spaceships Pat knows about crashes to the Earth. It's a surprisingly powerful moment, seeing all these handmade ships plummet and blow up, adding to the feel of Pat's world just coming undone. It's a cool visual, but it helps communicate that feeling very well. There's even insert shots of Pat at his editing bay, taking out key scenes or debating about leaving them in. At first I was confused, but then near the end I kinda got it. The whole experience feels like one trying to debate if he should recall a painful memory or discard it, sort of depicting the human brain as kind of like an editing session. Small stuff like that is really clever. And there's also some pretty good eye drops of comedy too, especially given the movie is both an homage and a satirical take on Stanley Kubrick's 2001. So it does have this abstract avant-garde feel to it without losing its coming-of-age comedic tone. There's a scene where Pat has a dream where it's sort of a cross between the ape creatures in the beginning of 2001, though if they were depicted more like Planet of the Apes, where he's trying to show all these unevolved people this grand new thing, and I won't reveal the punchline, but there's something Python-esque about it that had me laughing for a good couple of minutes. It's so simple, but in a way, it just tickled my fancy very well. Even the last third of the movie is a major driving force, as Pat tries to get everyone to see Star Wars. But one thing leads to another. I will try to avoid spoiling what happens because it's worth it for the journey alone. There's so much to identify here, from Pat talking about the movie and even trying to sell people that this is a must-see thing. From playing radio spots over the morning announcements to even just breaking down and describing every single scene that happens to his friends or a group of people, just to convince them this is a life-changing event you can't miss. I can't tell you how many times outside of this web series I had a moment where I'd be describing and talking about a movie that I know and they didn't. Something really obscure, like, say, Twice Upon a Time. And I would just completely worry if their reaction would be good or bad based on the depiction that I'd be giving unto them. And I'm pretty certain that anyone who had a similar situation that I did would probably worry that said listener would have a reaction akin to this.
Alright, so I just have one question.
What?
What the hell are you on?
And on top of that, you have, in my opinion, one of the gutsiest endings I have ever seen in a movie. Again, I don't want to give too much away, but it's one of the most hardest things I have ever seen to the point it brings me to tears every time I see it. I mean, okay, nobody dies or anything like that, but trust me when I say, it's ballsy. The kind of ballsy where one person tries their hardest to do something great, but reality sets in and feel disappointed that things didn't end up the way they hoped.
I really tried this time. I really tried.
There.
This is as good as I can do, and I still failed.
What helps communicate this more is how 52577 has no true villain. Sure, there's obstacles like bullies and the pressure of convincing your family what passion and talents you have are worth fighting for, but it's all presented as one big slice of life. And sometimes the best plans made don't go the way they intended. I can't tell you how many times I can relate to this. There are moments when I hope for some major change or the will to connect with people to find hopefully they have a similar passion that I have, both within the family and with friends. But no matter what, people will be on a different wavelength of interest. Not everyone is going to connect with the passions and things you desire the most. It all comes down to what you want in life and not what to expect from life. You can witness change, but it's also important to make a difference too. For the most part, I really love this movie. So much that I consider it one of my new all-time favorites. But is it enough to be number one? No, that honor still goes to Jim Henson's The Dark Crystal. You never forget your first. Though I will say, 52577 is a bit of a hard one to recommend. Not too long ago, I showed this movie to some friends of mine, and they enjoyed it. They liked it fine. But the more interesting reaction was from my mother, who likes simple stuff. Very simple stuff. So you can only imagine what her reaction was like when the end credits began.
What the hell was that?
52577 has a particular niche and feel that might not click with everyone. The choices in filmmaking and manner of storytelling do have an unconventional feel that is far removed from, say, a basic biopic, which might turn mainstream viewers off. With that said, this alone is the very reason why I enjoy this one so much. For an independent movie that's been trying to get off the ground since 2001, it's amazing to see all that time helped craft and tinker something that's unique and different from so many other things of the norm. This isn't a studio movie that had 2 or 3 years of work. This took 18 years to make. I'm glad Patrick Reed Johnson got his vision made without big studio involvement. It was risky, but it made for an interesting experience. Now, of course, I would eventually see The Fabelmans, and while I admit it's a well-made movie, something about it felt underwhelming to me. Now, don't get me wrong, the characters are interesting and it's gorgeously shot, not to mention the way it painstakingly recreates the 40s, 50s, and 60s. I'm a dead sucker for period piece movies like that. There was something about the story that didn't grab my attention the same way Patrick Reed Johnson's movie did. Now, with the exception of the David Lynch cameo, which is awesome, Fabelmans lacked a sense of grit, and there were moments when it felt kind of emotionally phoned in at times. The best way to describe why I felt Patrick's movie was better in my opinion, well, in a strange way, the best way that I can say is that it kind of felt like a big-budgeted version of Nickelodeon's The Adventures of Pete and Pete, a show I really love. A show about 2 brothers who experience tons of strange and unusual life adventures. This movie reminded me the way each episode tells its story from a child's perspective, and how it feels real and over-exaggerated to the point we enjoy it, but also identify why it's odd.
I guess I'm just afraid you're growing up too fast.
It's not like I can help it.
Yeah, me neither.
Because to a child,
that's how the world looks to them. The smaller things feel and look more important compared to how an adult would perceive them. That's what 5/25/77 feels to me. It's the kind of movie where you let your emotions dictate how you should feel. It's an experience movie. Don't think about the plot. Just experience the joys, the pains, and the wonders of life. It's a strange, yet unique look at life from a movie buff and filmmaker that had one good story worth telling. Final verdict? Don't just watch it, but own it.
Because no matter what your reaction is, I will highly defend this movie to the end of my age. I like it that much. You know, for once, it feels good to defend the little guy. Just something about it just calls me back to do this show again. Well, maybe in this new format. And yet, do I go back to the old ways? Well, I for one like the new format. I think it really suits you best, but there's a couple of suggestions I do have. Suggestions? Well, I wouldn't say suggestions, more like a couple of pointers per se. First off, yeah, it's definitely going to be different, it's going to be new, but look at it this way. Season 1, there was no script, and midway through Season 3 there was a script. And things got more jokey and things like that. Characters were added on. But at the end of the day, no matter how many times the format of the show changes, it all boils down to one essential element. The reviewer. They don't come just to hear what you think of this or hear what you think of that. They want to hear it from you. There are going to be tons of people talking about one movie, but it's the voice that matters. Yeah. You're right. You're right about a lot of things. It's not the show that makes the show. It's me. Oh, one more thing. Keep the suit and tie. It suits you way better than this. Yeah, you do have a good point. I'd imagine I look like wearing these in my 50s or 60s. It'd be kind of sad. Tell me about it. I'm finally glad to get rid of this kind of gimmick. But hey, what they say, it's better to burn bright than simply fade away. Folks, there comes a time when shows have to evolve. It could be for better, it could be for worse, but no matter what, as long as I am here, nothing's going to change. We're still talking movies, reviewing movies, and examining movies. That's always been a prime core of vaulting, and it always will be. See you next time, folks.
Leaving wears his wounds like a crown. He calls his child Jesus, because 'cause he likes the name. And he sends him to the finest schools in town. He was born a pauper to a pawn on a Christmas day, when the New York Times said God is dead and the war's begun. Alvin Tossing had a son today. And he shall believe on, and he shall be a good man, and he shall believe on in tradition with a family plan, and he shall believe on, and he shall be a good man. He shall believe on.
All right. One down, many to go for Season 12. The only question now is what to cover next. It'd be pretty tricky to figure out exactly what movie would be perfect to cover now. It's gotta be something that's trending. Something that I have always been tempted to cover for a long time. Especially given how now there's going to be no cutoff date or limits, though albeit depending on said flick. And yet, this drinking cup is giving me a crazy idea. A mad yet crazy idea.
Cut.
If you end up seeing farther than others, it's only because you've stood upon the shoulders of giants.
On June 11, Universal Pictures invites you
Hey, look at this.
to discover the wonder.
Can I touch it?
Sure. Experience the power and live an adventure 65 million years in the making. Jurassic Park. Rated PG-13. Starts Friday, June 11th at theaters everywhere.